And today we'll be talking about a topic that I believe is fundamental, but not so fundamental. There are a bit of technicalities to it. And I believe by taking us through this path, there are one or two things we are going to learn and pick that will make our onboarding process smooth and easy. So quickly, I'm going to be sharing a slide that I'll be working with. And in as much as there'll be a slide, I'll also definitely get to do a demo to show you how most of the processes I'll be talking about are being done physically. So let's get right into it. Okay. Like I said earlier, my name is Iberedem Bassi. You can search for me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel with the name Iberedem Bassi. And today we'll be talking about M365 Onboarding Made Easy, the strategies for efficient user setup and management. Now, before we go into it, I would just like to throw a little bit of light into what the entire onboarding process talks about. Onboarding, simply put, just has to do with bringing up an individual into an organization. As the name implies, onboarding, you're bringing somebody on board. But it does not just end there. It also has to do with you making sure the person coming on board has an understanding of the system in place, the strategies, the securities, the policies that are governing that organization that he or she is coming on board to. And in order to make this possible, you also need to provision the user, which means setting up an account for the user, and also come to a point where you give the user a training about what he or she needs to be able to effectively carry out his or her responsibility because he or she has joined the organization. Now, there's a difference between onboarding and provisioning. Provisioning basically just has to do with the idea of you bringing in the user. It's tech-centric. It just has to do with you bringing on the user. But onboarding encapsulates everything. I can say provision is a subset of onboarding, in the sense that onboarding is every single thing required to make sure the user is picking up in the role that he has been assigned to function in and function efficiently. So there will be orientation process, there will be trainings that will be required to make sure that the user can work out efficiently. So let's just go into the slide and see what we have. So first of all, what is M365 Onboarding? I've already given us a basic understanding of what it is. But from my slide, we can see that onboarding is a structured process of setting up new users with the tools, permissions, and training required for effective work in M365. Do not forget the scope of our training today will be M365. So we'll be talking about the structured process of setting up a new user with the tools, the permissions, and training required for effective work in M365. The first thing that we need to talk about when we are dealing with onboarding is the user identity. That has to do with creating and managing the user accounts. The next thing in M365 is the licensing, assigning necessary Microsoft 365 licenses, depending on what you intend for the user to do and depending on the licenses available in your organization. The next thing is going to be configuration. That has to do with setting up devices and the applications that will be useful to carry out your responsibility. Then the user education here has to do with training users on M365 tool usage. It's not just enough for you to bring in a new user to an organization. It's important that you put him or her through as to what he or she needs to be effective in delivering their services or carrying out the role for which they are being assigned. Now, in the course of this training, I'll definitely make us understand the difference between the licenses and the roles. But let me just say this before I proceed, that licenses give you access to applications. They make it possible for you to be able to access applications in the M365 platform, while the roles are like, they give you access to resources, what you need to be able to carry out what you need to do. And it also gives you access to the M365 admin center when you have a role assigned to you. Now we're going to be talking about, before we go into that, we have to understand that onboarding has to be planned and systematic to ensure a consistent delivery. What that means is that you don't just onboard carelessly. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a plan set in place. And why that plan is necessary is to make sure that somebody else who is joining the organization can see that plan and follow it step by step to be able to bring up any user that is coming in. So there has to be a plan that has been set out, and there has to be a system that is in place to ensure consistent delivery. Next, we'll be looking at why efficient onboarding matters. Why is it important for us to onboard people efficiently? onboarding, a streamlined process ensures it because a streamlined process ensures rapid integration and consistent governance across the organization. Now, what that simply means is that when you have onboarded a user efficiently, it makes it easy for the user to be speedily integrated into the organization and to function as expected of him or her. And then the consistent governance there means that it helps maintain a stable, predictable, and enforceable set of rules, policies, and decision-making process across the organization. So whatever policies the organization has set in place, the person being onboarded will be able to easily come into it and abide by those policies and those decision-making rules that have already been set in place. The first thing that efficient onboarding does is it brings up speed and productivity, reduces time to productivity for new hires, ensuring faster ramp up. Now, for this, I would just like to throw in I would like us to just imagine a scenario. Let's say we have a football field where we have a substitute on the bench. And then a substitute now will need to come into the field at some point to be able to carry out a particular task. Now, for the substitute to be effective in delivering what he or she needs to do, I think you need to have observed what was going on in the match and also listen to the instructions from the coach as to what you need to do when you come on board. So for you to be able to come up and be able to produce immediately, it means that you paid attention and you were willing to actually carry out the work. Now, what efficient onboarding does is that it reduces the speed, it reduces time to productivity. What that means is that you don't need too much time to be effective in what you're called upon to do. As soon as you come in, because you have been onboarded effectively, you immediately go into the role and begin to carry out your assignment excellently. The second thing is that security and compliance. It enforces access policies and identity controls from day one. Now, what that means is that I'm going to also share a particular scenario and just give us an insight as to how this can play out. Now, let's say we have a school and the school is bringing on a new teacher, for instance. Now, as the teacher let's say you're employing a new chemistry teacher. Now, a new chemistry teacher coming into a school, there are rules and regulations that the school abides by that you are coming into the school, did not know before and need to know to be able to be effective in carrying out your responsibility. For instance, you can say, okay, this is your chemistry teacher. What you need to understand is that this is the key to the laboratory and the laboratory is under lock and key except permission is given for you to access that place. And then if for any reason there is a breakage into the laboratory or anything happens, you are the one to be held responsible. Or if your key gets missing, there's an authority to report to, so that the basic security measures need to be put in place to make sure that does not happen again are put in place. So with efficient onboarding, there is a beautiful, it enforces access policies and identity controls from day one. There is security and compliance being enforced from day one when onboarding is being done efficiently. Now, when we talk about scalability, efficient onboarding brings about scalability in the sense that it enables consistent onboarding across departments and regions. Now, let's just imagine that we have an organization that has branches in different regions. When onboarding is done efficiently, it doesn't matter which branch of the organization you're going to. As far as the onboarding has been done and there's a documentation for how onboarding should take place, that onboarding process is going to be exactly the same thing or similar to that, very close to that. It doesn't matter the organization you're going to. For instance, let's say you're working for a bank, let's say UBA or GT Bank. It doesn't matter the branch of UBA or GT you go to. There are already onboarding processes, there are already steps that have been set in place for you to come into the organization. There are procedures that have been aligned for you to follow to be able to be onboarded into the system as a new employee. And the next thing we have is the user satisfaction. That has to talk about delivering a smooth, positive experience for the new users. As a new hire, nothing makes it easy for you to deliver excellently on your job as you being welcomed and being trained on the tools that you need to use to be able to work effectively. And that makes it easy for you to transition smoothly and have a positive experience as a new user. Then another thing, I would like to say something about this user satisfaction with respect to that. I remember there was a webinar I attended and a panelist made a comment and said that one of the organizations that he worked for that made a difference in his life was when he was onboarded into the system. Not only was he onboarded, but he was asked by who was assigned to be his manager how he or she wants to be managed. Now, why is that necessary? Because it gives you an insight into the person you're dealing with, and it also gives the person, the employee coming to the organization, a belief and understanding that I matter, my opinion also matters. I'm not just coming into work, but you also give me a platform for me to express myself and be excellent in delivering what I have been called to deliver. Now, the next thing we are going to be talking about is identity. This is the cornerstone of M365 onboarding. Now, here we have the identity is the digital representation of a user, enabling secure access to services, apps, and data. It is the first and most critical step in onboarding. Simply put, identity determines who the user is. Authentication tells us, claim, show to us that you say you are who you are. Authorization grants you access based on the roles that you have been given in the organization. Then the compliance and personalization enforces policies and tailor experience. So simply put, we need to understand that before any user is being brought into a system, there has to be an identity that is given to the user. For M365 platform, every user has an object ID, a unique object ID that is unique to everybody. And for every device or every user in M365, there's an identity assigned to the person for the person to function. That identity now determines. Now, when you're coming into the M365 portal, you need to authenticate to prove that you are who you are. Authentication process can be by your username and your password. It can be by MFA, the multi-factor authentication. It can be by using the authenticator app. There are different methods you can authenticate to prove that you are who you say you are. Then for authorization now, it grants access based on rules. Depending on the role you have been assigned to carry out, you're going to be given authorization to carry out that role effectively in the step of organization. Then the compliance and personalization, that has to do with enforcing policies and tailoring experience to make sure that the experience is tailored to be effective and excellent. Now, if you see down here, it said identity determines who the user is, authentication, what they can access, authorization, and how they interact with M365 services. Now, our next slide is going to be talking about identity components and models. What are the key components in identity? We have the Microsoft Entra ID, which is formerly Azure Active Directory, which is a cloud-based identity platform. We have the user object. The user object there refers to the digital profile. We have the name, the roles, and the group membership. We have the authentication method, where we have the password, the multi-factor authentication. The biometrics here has to do with the means of identifying using your body. It can be your fingerprint, it can be your face, it can be scanning your face, it can be your voice. Then we have the federated login. The federated login here means using one trusted account to sign into many different systems across different organizations. And these credentials from one organization to access services and organization is made possible because there is a trust between the organizations that are involved. Then we have the access policies, where we have the conditional access and the role-based access control, which is tied to your identity. Then we have the identity models for onboarding, where we have the cloud-only identity model that is managed entirely in Entra ID, that is ideal for cloud-native organizations. That simply means that we have organizations that every single thing they're doing is based in the cloud. When we have the hybrid identity model of onboarding, which syncs on-premises Active Directory with Entra ID, common in enterprises. Now, if your organization must have been dealing with Active Directory on-premises and you're migrating to the cloud, you can actually come to a point where you are syncing the users from the on-premises to the users in the cloud and being able to manage identity depending on when you intend to fully migrate to the cloud. There are some organizations that do not intend to fully migrate to the cloud. They still want to have that hybrid presence. So that's also an identity model for onboarding. We have the federated. That has to be the authentication handled by external providers, example, the Okta, that offers advanced control. So these are the different identity models that we have for onboarding. And the next thing we are going to be looking at are the 5 ways we can onboard users in Microsoft 365. Now, the first way we're going to be looking at is the manual addition, where we have using the admin center, and it is best for small teams or occasional additions. Now, the admin center here, you can use the M365 admin center, you can use the Entra ID admin center, depending on your preference. But you need to also note that in assigning of licenses, that is only made possible in the M365 admin center. You cannot assign licenses in Entra admin center. Then the next one is the bulk import, where we have the use of a CSV. You prepare the CSV with the user info and you upload it. And it is efficient for when you are dealing with uploading multiple users into the organization. Then we have the Azure Active Directory sync, where you use Azure Active Directory Connect for hybrid environment and large enterprises, where you might have had organizations on site, on premises, and you want to migrate to the cloud and you want to move your users to the cloud. That's where you get to use the AD Connect to be able to migrate your users to the cloud and be able to function effectively. Then you can also use PowerShell scripting. Recently, M365 is migrating to PowerShell graph to be used. Although the default PowerShell module is still working, but the PowerShell graph is what is coming in and is coming in to stay, where you can automate user creation and license assignment using commandlets. Then we have the Graph API, the third-party tools that you can integrate for custom workflow and large-scale lifecycle management. Now we are going to be talking about the different group types in M365. And choosing the right group type is crucial for collaboration and access control. The first group type we have, which is listed in the M365 admin portal, we have the M365 group, we have the distribution list, and we have the security group. The M365 group is best for collaboration. It includes shared resources, Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, and it supports dynamic membership. The dynamic list is best for email broadcasting. It sends messages to all members. No shared resources or collaboration features. Simply put, the dynamic list, the mail is gathered. The mails are gathered. Then you just distribute it. You just, as the name implies, distribution. You just distribute it to the different mails that are being enclosed in that. And the security group is best for access control, that role-based access control, and is used to grant permissions to resources like the SharePoint or applications, and it does not have email capabilities except unless you enable it. That can be enabled. And you need to understand that the distribution list is only available in the M365 Admin Center. In the Entra ID Admin Center, you only have access to the Microsoft 365 group and the security group. Now we are going to be carrying out a demo where we are going to be creating a new user. And in doing this, we're going to be creating a user in two places. But first, we're going to be creating a user using the M365 Admin Center. So let's get right into it. Now, let's imagine that we have an organization joining, an employee joining an organization. For you to onboard the user effectively, there has to be an onboarding request. An onboarding request here, what that does is it gives you the name of the employee coming in. It gives you the details of the employee that needs to be included into the M365 space. And from our onboarding request here, we can see we have the name of the employee being Oyindobra Basi. And they say this document outlines the necessary details for onboarding the new support engineer, Oyindobra Basi, into the IT department. Personal information is we have the first name, the last name. We're going to see where we can impute this in M365. We have the mobile number. We have the alternate email address that will be effective when we are using SSPR. That's the self-service password reset, where the user, for any reason, might have lost his or her password and desires to reset the password. With the alternate email, that can be an option for resetting the password. Where we have the roles and the department. The job title is support engineer. The department is in the IT department. The group the person belongs to is the IT department and the support engineer group. And the license will be assigning is a Microsoft 365 E5 license. Under the system access and permissions, we're going to be giving the person an administrative role. That is the user administrative role. And then we're going to be assigning the person two shared mailboxes, the IT department shared mailbox and the update shared mailbox. So let's get right into it. So I would like to split my screen at this point so that we get to see how that is going to be made possible. Before I split the screen, let me just show you. Now, there are two ways I can get to the M365 Admin Center. Let me just show you the two ways you can get to access this. You can come in by typing office.com and then signing into your account. I think I'm already signed into this particular user. I'll still get to sign in again when I've created a new user. So we'll get to see that I've already signed into this account. But when you type in office.com, you click on sign in, you see an option to sign in, then you can sign into the user. Another way you can sign into the admin portal is by clicking cmd.ms. With cmd.ms, you can sign into different admin portals where we have the Entra ID admin portal. We have, and this is still loading, it's taking a bit of time. We have the Entra ID admin portal. 1 minute, let this just quickly load. We have the Entra ID admin portal, we have the M365 admin portal, we have the SharePoint admin portal, and the rest of the portals. So here you can see we have the Entra admin portal, we have the M365 admin portal, we have the link to Azure, the Microsoft Defender, and every other thing is listed here when you use the cmd.ms. These are the two ways you can decide to sign in. Now, when you sign in here, after signing, this account already been signed in, that's why we see it like this. You can come into admin. When you click on admin, this is one way you can you can actually access the admin center for you to get to create your user. So now we are in our admin center and I've been welcomed in. And when we are dealing with users, we come under the portal here that has to do with users. We click on active users. Active users here gets to display the number of active users we have in our organization and the licenses that they are assigned depending on the preference of the organization. Then, before I go into creating a user, I'll just show us a few things around this place. Now, we have user templates. Now, user templates, how this works is you can actually create a user and add a template so that in a situation whereby you're creating a user, let's say you're creating a user that should join the IT department. So you create a template such that if you're adding another user to the IT department, all you need to do is to use that template and just edit the details that has to do with the display name and the rest. Now, we have the option to add multiple users. And this is effective when you're trying to add a lot of people at the same time. There are two ways you can do this. You can click in their first name, the last name, username, and select your domain. Now, note, in a situation whereby you have more than one domain in your organization, you can click the drop down here and select the domain you'll be using for yourself. In this particular demo, I'll be using the basiltech.com domain. That's what I intend to use. Then another way you can also do that is by uploading a CSV file with user information. I remember when I talked about ways we can add users in M365, I mentioned that you can add them using the CSV file. What that simply means is that you're going to download an Excel sheet and input the details of the users and then upload it. As soon as you upload it, the users will be added to your organization. So let's go back to our Active Directory. And here is where you can set up your multi-factor authentication for the user, per user, if you intend to do that. Another way you can set up multi-factor authentication is by using conditional access. You can do it either by using the security default or using conditional access. Security default here are like the baseline security measures that are made available by M365. While the conditional access, you need to have at least an Entra P1 license to be able to use. And the conditional access gives you a more granular control. And you need to understand that the security default and conditional access cannot work together. If you're enabling conditional access, the security default has to be disabled. So they are mutually exclusive. One cannot perform, they cannot perform simultaneously. One has to be on and the other has to be off. In fact, when you're trying to turn off a security default, you'll be asked that if you're trying to turn it off because you intend to migrate to using the conditional access policies. So next, we are going to go into adding our user. So let's click on add a user. And we are going to do this by splitting the screen. So I'll be splitting this screen here. Excellent. So now our user in Dobra here, we have our first name, we have our last name, we have our email address. So I've been putting the first name here, Oyin Dobra, and the last name, Passive. The moment you input that, the display name will be captured automatically from what you have inputted there. You can still decide to edit it to your preference, but I'll just let it be the way it is. Now, under the username, you can decide to choose what you want to use as the username for this particular user. And that is dependent on whatever your naming convention is for your organization. For some organizations, they decide to use the first name dot the first letter of the last name. For some other organizations, they decide to use the last name, the first letter of the first name dot the surname at the domain name. So that's what you need to understand based on the preference from the organization you're working with. So I'll be using Oyin Dobra. I'll just be using Oyin Dobra, the first name. Then you need to select my domain. I said we'll be dealing with basiltech.com here. That's the domain we're dealing with. You can add multiple domains. You can customize your domain in M365 to your preference, depending on what you intend to do. Then under this, you can automatically decide to create a password that'll be given to you. Let me just maximize this so that I get to show this perfectly. You can automatically create a password. Now, what that simply means is that the password will be automatically generated for you when you create the user. You can use it to sign into the user account, or you can use, and then you also have the option to require the user to change their password when they first sign in. If you untick this, you'll be given the option to actually input the password you intend for the user to use to sign in. That doesn't automatically create the password for the user. You are the one enforcing that this is the password I want the user to sign in with. And then when we talk about require the user to sign in, you can decide that, okay, I don't want the user to change the password at first signing. I want he or she to use this password consistently and proceed as the time may be. So I'll just go ahead with this option so that I'll go with this option to save time. So I've inputted the password, and I won't require the user to sign in to change the password at next sign in. So we are going to go to next. Now, I'll definitely have to bring up my onboarding document here. Yes, under our onboarding request, we have that the user was assigned an E5 license. The license was the E5 license, and the department was the IT, the group. So let's just quickly input that. We have the location. The license location is very important. You need to select it. Then we are assigning the user the E5 Microsoft E5 developers license. I'm using a developer's account. You can also assign the Microsoft Power Automate free license. Now, I want you to notice something here before I proceed. The moment, if I do not untick this, the application showing here is 0. But the moment I get to tick this, the application increases to 76. What that simply gets to make you understand is that the moment you assign a license to a user, you give the user access to applications to effectively carry out their responsibility. Now, when I assign this license to this user, I can still decide to take out certain applications from the user. So it's not just enough for you to have been assigned the license. You need to be sure that you have been assigned a particular application to function. For instance, if I take out this Exchange Online Plan 2, the user will not have a mailbox. The user will have an account, but will not be able to access mailbox features. If I take out this avatar for Teams, the user will have access to Teams, but will not be able to access avatar for Teams meetings, and the rest of it, as the case may be. Now, the apps here showing was 76 when I assigned the M365 E5 license. If I click on this, Microsoft Power Automate free license, the apps here becomes 78, which means that 2 more licenses have been added from the Microsoft Power Automate free. So this is what we're going to be assigning to this user, and let's click on next. Now, under optional settings, under roles here, this is where you get to assign the role that the user has been enforced to use. From our user onboarding request here, Oyindobra was being meant to be assigned the user administrator role. So we are going to go ahead and assign the admin role to her. So we come here, we click on this, see the different roles that are available to be assigned. We have the admin center access. You can also decide to create a user without an admin role, but that just means that the user will not be able to access the admin center. The user will not be able to access the admin center, except some other configurations are being put in place. I'll explain what I mean by that. Now, by the admin center access, we have different roles listed here. We have the global admin role, we have the exchange admin role, we have the AI admin role. There are roles depending, and this role, each of these roles just simply means different job functions. Just understand that when we're talking about roles, we're talking about the job functions of a particular user. Now, the global administrator here is the most powerful role that you can ever assign. That's why it's Microsoft advises that you should have maximum of 2, from 2 to 4 global admin. It shouldn't be more than that. It's more than that, your organization is in a risk. It's at a risk, because anybody that has the global admin rights can actually do and undo in your M365 tenant. Can decide to delete users, take out permissions. It's a very powerful role. So you don't assign the global admin role carelessly. You need to make sure that if you are assigning the role, you are going through with the principle of least privilege, which says that the user should be assigned the role depending on what he or she is assigned to do and nothing more. No elevated access, just to do what he or she is assigned to do. So for this, our user Oyindobra Basi, we intend to assign the user admin role. So we're going to click on the user administrator role, which is what we intend to do. Then there are other roles here that you can show by category. As I said, they're all listing different job roles. We have the Exchange administrator, we have the Dynamics 365 administrator, we have and each of these roles have their responsibility. When I click on this info here, it tells you that it has unlimited access to all management features and most data in all admin center. The user administrator basically resets user password, creates and manages users and groups, including filters, manages service requests, and monitors service health. So that's what the user admin does. Then we can go to under the profile info. Under the profile info here, we are going to include the department. We said the department that she was assigned to from our onboarding request was the IT department. So we can quickly include the IT department. Then her job title was support engineer. We can input the job title here, support engineer. Then we have her phone number, her mobile number. Her mobile number was +234 +48082451429. Then we have an alternate email. This will be configured later. We have the email address oindobra.b. That was .b. I didn't take note of that. I need to go and edit that quickly. Then, is there any other thing we can input here? I think we are good. So let me just quickly go back to the basics and include oindobra.b. Go back to the optional settings. Clicked on this already. We included the department, we included the job title, and then can decide to select the country depending on what depending on the country the person is coming from, the city, and the rest. So we can click on next. Now we have our display name, we have our username, our display name and username. We have the password, which is the customized password, the one I choose. We have the licenses that have been assigned, the role, the user administrator role. We have the profile info, which have the job title to be support engineer, and the department to be IT department. We can still get to edit this. We can click on finish adding. And that will just populate the user and bring in the user into the organization. Now, another thing I need you to understand is with respect to the password, I think I'll still show you that when I'm trying to, it's just a testing purposes. So we can just show you that when I'm trying to, so this is where you can show the password and get to log into the user details and proceed as the case may be. You can get to print the details for the user, and then we are done with this, so we can close. This way you can get to name the template for this addition. I talked about the template and get to save it and proceed. So let me close this. We are done. We added the user. Now we've been able to set up Oyindobra's account, but that's not all. We were also instructed from our onboarding request to assign her to a particular group, that is the support engineer group and the IT department, and we were assigned to, we were so to give her access to shared mailbox. Let's quickly go and set that up. Go under Teams and go to shared mailboxes. We're supposed to assign her access to the IT shared mailbox. Let me just bring this here. Then she's supposed to have access to the IT department shared mailbox and the update shared mailbox. So let's just quickly do this. The IT department. Let me add a member. You click on the IT department, you go to members, you edit it, you add members, click on Oyindobra. This is the user that we added now, you add her. Then there were permissions assigned to her. They said for the IT department, she has the read, manage, and send access permissions. So we come here after assigning that user. We go to where we have read, manage permissions. You click on this. She has the read and manage permissions already. We go to where we have send as permissions. She has the send as permissions already, but we didn't add her to the send on behalf. We have to do that. No. So we now go to the next shared mailbox that we have in our place. We have the update mailbox. Click on the update. We go to where we have members. Click on members. Add members. Oyindobra. This is the user. We add her. It's taking a little while to populate. That is saved. So which permissions was she assigned? She was assigned to have just the read and manage access. Read and manage access. So we can go back here, check under the read and manage permissions. She's already there. Excellent. So we can go back and cancel this. So we've set that up properly. Now, the next thing we are going to be doing is we are going to be logging into Oyindobra's account and seeing what it looks like from her ends. So let's open this in incognito window. Oh, she was assigned to be added to a group as well. Just remember, she was supposed to be added to the IT department and support engineer. So we're going to be adding her to one of the groups. Quickly go to active teams and groups. And then go to the security groups. You have the support engineer, click on support engineer. Then members, view and manage members. We are going to quickly add her. to the user. It had her here. She was also supposed to be added to the IT department. That's also a group. But I had configured it such that she has been automatically added to the IT department because the membership type for the IT department was set to dynamic. It wasn't assigned. I'll explain that when we go to the Entra admin center quickly. Okay, I have a few time. Let me quickly see how we can move. We go into new incognito window. Let me sign into our accounts very speedily. Freeze.com. Sign in. In the Brad. Then the password. Now, this is the multi-factor authentication process that has been enforced for every user that is signing into this particular organization. That was enforced from the Entra ID Admin Center. There was a conditional access policy set that every user coming in must authenticate that he or she is who they say they are. So I'll quickly get to authenticate the user and we sign into her account speedily. Go next. Go next. I already have the Authenticator app installed on my phone and quickly trying to sign this. Now, if for any reason you try signing in and it's giving you difficulty, you can just go back and come back in and that will get it done quickly. Okay, fine. I've been able to authenticate my user. This is a security measure that is also very important. Click on next. I'll be asked to input the corresponding number. Yes, it is me. And I'm signed in. Next. That's done. Beautiful. So we'll be seeing what it looks like. Okay, I have set up another security measure for this user. Okay, done. I think this is done. Yes, stay signed in. Excellent. Excellent. Oof. It's trying to populate the SSPR. Okay. So we are in. So this is what it looks like from the user's end when you're signed in. We have the search, the create, we have the different applications that are here, and we have all that is, we can get to see what was assigned. We have the teams, we have the Outlook, we have every single thing. So let me just quickly open the Outlook in a new tab and get to show us how we can access the shared mailboxes that she was configured to access. That will quickly take me to where we have the admin center. For you to get to have the custom domain, you come under your, click on show, or under your M365 admin portal, you come to your settings, you come to domain. This is where you get to see your domains. And under domains here, we have the different domains that have been added to this tenant. We have this, and they're all healthy. You can click on add a domain here, and you get to follow up the procedures as the case may be. You'll be required to put in the MX record and the different records that we require for the domain to be added. And when you can verify it from your domain server, from your domain end, then the domain will be added to this particular M365 tenant. I believe I've answered that question. So the person asking for a flow diagram, and if he or she is asking for a process as to how this is going to work. But I think I'll have to work on that. Quickly, let me just go back to where we had access to our mail. So we've added her and she has access to the shared. I want to show you how we can access the shared mailboxes that we added. So for us to be able to access the shared mailboxes, we need to come in here. If you observe, you can see her inbox is here. She has the sent item. She has the draft. For us to add the shared, we can click here, click on add a shared folder or mailbox. Then we can now share for our shared mailbox, which is IT department. It's one of them that was created. Moment. So let me just check my onboarding request to be sure. IT department, we had the update. Okay, let me check for the update. Okay, this is the update shared mailbox. Click on this and we continue. So that will be added to our account. And we can also decide to add the IT department. This is it. And click on continue. And that has also been added. So when if you come down here, we can get to see the update shared mailbox. We can get to see the IT department shared mailbox. So that's it. And there were different permissions that were granted onto her. She had the send and receive permission in one of them, and she didn't have it for another one. So I'll just quickly show us how that works. For the IT department, she had the read, manage, and the send access. So she can easily come into the new mail, and then in order to send from the IT department, she will come to options, click on show from, select where you want to send it from, click on order email address, IT. This is where we are sending from. And you can just add a subject, new user, and then we can just say alert, and we can send. So this, okay, we didn't add a recipient. So let me just put in a recipient. Let me just put in uidobra.b@basiltech.com. Let's send. Now that has been sent, and the mail has been received here. So we can get to see from the Outlook ends, we have the shared member that have been sent, that have been set up, and she can send from here. We gave her the send permission here. If we go to where we have the update, let's try to send a mail from updates, although we didn't access that. Let's just see the error that will be popping up when we try to do that. We click on new mail, we come to where we have the options, we go to show from, click on the drop down, click on other email, search for update. That is I'm selected, I'm sending it to Indobra. Let me get to copy this. Then you can just say alert 2. That did not go through. That did not go through because we didn't give her the send, but it's supposed to have a pop-up of an error. Wondering why that didn't come up, but that's what should happen because we didn't give the send permission assigned to the user. So I think this is basically what happens from this user's end. We can also get to access the user's portal to see the groups the user belongs to. We come to view accounts. Under view accounts, we'll get to see the groups the user has been assigned to. We also get to see the different things that the user has access to as a result of being added into the organization. This has been done and it's coming up. I had to reset up SSPR for this user. So I believe that is one of the reasons why we are having this. So this is the user account. And then remember, we added the user to a particular group. We added the user to the IT department. We click on the groups that the user is in. This should show. These are the groups. The user is in the IT department and the support engineer. And the user is in the IT department, not because I added the user manually, but because there was a dynamic rule that was set for the user to be assigned to that department. So quickly, because we do not have so much time, I'll quickly just show us a quick one on how to add a user using the Entra Admin Center. Quickly, I won't even get to, I'll just explain quickly what happens in the Entra Admin Center to identity, and then explain a few things about the groups, and we are going to call it a day. Please, is there any question, Victor? Please find out if there's any question and let me know.
Yes, sir. We have one more question, sir.
Okay, please go ahead, shoot.
Yes, so the lady asked how do we or the guy person asked how do we create a shared mailbox when a request for one comes in? Like just like how we add individual users.
I didn't get you. How do we do what, please?
How do we create a shared mailbox when a request for one comes in?
Okay, that can be done from the M365 admin portal. And quickly, I can just get to show that if you come down to teams and groups, go to shared mailboxes, you can add a shared mailbox here. This is where you can get to add a shared mailbox. I don't know if I've answered the question.
The person can just give a reaction if that answers it.
Okay. Any other question apart from that one, or we are good?
No. That's all. That's all.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So I clicked on this. Because I'm wondering why these guys deny me. No, I don't want the verification code. I want to use my authenticator app. Okay, while I'm trying to get this sorted out, let me see if I can use the verification code. Okay, I think that'll be better. Let me quickly enter that. What's good? Come on now. Okay, I think I'm in now. So we are into the Entra ID admin center. To create a new user, you come to users, you go to all users, you go to new user. Then over here, you can decide to create a new user or invite an external user. If you have an external user you want to invite your organization to function, this is where you get in the user principal name. You select the domain you desire to use. Let me just use creators. Okay, creators 1. I think I already use creators. So we just use you can derive the user principal name from this to have your mail nickname. You can input the display name here. Your password can also be auto-generated, or you can decide to use another application which is called the password pusher. The password pusher here, what it does is that it generates a password, and then it can also give you a time frame for the password to expire and the number of views required for the password to be used. If those views are being exhausted, then the person has to request for a new password. And if after 3 days the password is not used to sign into the account, the password expires. So you can just that's an option you can use to actually set up a user. Then we have the properties. Let me just put in the display name here. That's you go to next properties. We have the first name we can use. Ritus Basi. That's the last name. You can be a member, you can be a guest, depending on your preference. We can set in the job title, depending on your preference, and every other thing. But this is just exactly how you get to create a user in Entra. But what I want to show us is the reason why Oyindobra was added to the IT department, even when I did not add her manually. That was because I had actually set up a dynamic ability for the group for users to be added to that group. And the condition I had put in was that as far as the user is in the IT department, that user should be added to the IT department group by default. So if you come here and come to dynamic membership rules, under dynamic membership rules, we'll get to see the rule that was set that the user department equals IT department, then automatically that user should be added to this IT department. I got to show that when I went into Oyindabra's account. So I'll quickly just go back to my slides and see how we can run through it so that we can get it done. We have the shared mailbox, but the distribution is differences between the shared mailbox and distribution list. The shared mailbox is one central as inbox accessed and managed by multiple people. Example is a company. All members can read and reply. Emails can be stored centrally. Replies can be sent from the shared address. Distribution list is one address that forward messages to many individual inboxes. Example, you just have one address, and when you forward the message to that address forwards the message to the different addresses that are supposed to have access to that information. Next one we have is this administrative unit basically is a means of delegating control. So if you have an organization that is bulky, massive organization, and you need the organization to be able to you need to be able to have delegated control over different units of the organization. That's where you set up the administrative unit to make that work. AUs are containers with entry ID that allows you to delegate administrative control over subnets of users, groups, or devices. We have the scope admin permissions, the use case in the multi-region, and the use case can also be in education. The AUs improve security, enhance compliance, and simplify delegation in large, decentralized organizations. Basically, what this means is that, for instance, in a school, you have different departments, and you want a particular person to spearhead a particular department. You can give him a delegated control over just that department and not the entire school. So that's just what administrative units get to do. Then I've showed us how we can use shared mailboxes already in my demo when I created the account and showed you how the shared mailboxes function. And then that will be all. Now, in the conclusion, laying the foundation for success, a well-executed M365 onboarding strategy is critical for long-term operational success and employee engagement. Number one, we have the streamline setup where we follow a clearly defined steps and best practices. Number two, it boosts productivity where it enhances user experience and operational efficiency. And number three, we have the strengthened security where it ensures compliance and minimizes risk. I want to say a very big thank you.